All right. Welcome everybody to this week's Brown Bag Lunch presentation. It is February 3rd. It's nice and rainy out, so hopefully you are all staying warm and dry. And just a couple things of housekeeping first. We're going to do a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Cal Poly Humboldt is on the land of the Wiyot peoples, which includes the Wiyot tribe, Bear River Rancheria, and Blue Lake Rancheria. Arcata is known as Gudini, meaning over in the woods or among the redwoods. Wiyot peoples continue to remain in relationship to these lands through ceremony, culture, and stewardship. Um, Here at OLLI, we believe learning should never end. OLLI creates opportunities for academic engagement, civic involvement, personal growth, and fun by offering a myriad of classes and experiences for a vibrant community of learners aged 50 and better. OLLI delivers learning for a lifetime. And just another reminder for those of you who have not picked up a copy or do not know yet, our spring catalog is available. Uh, they are available around the community at grocery stores, all sorts of different places, campus, at OLLI office, it's SBS 211. And also our catalog is available online to download as a PDF, so you can see it on the go. Registration is now open and classes begin next week. Our first class next week is going to be practical beekeeping with Janine Capriellin and Dick LaForge. It's going to be really, really cool. And I wanted to thank everybody who came out this Saturday for the OLLI 2025 Spring Open House. It was a resounding success. We had a great turnout. We had lots of fun. We had some giveaway prizes. So I wanted to give a special thanks to the curriculum committee and our volunteers who made the event possible. And I also wanted to thank the Sequoia Park Zoo and the Eureka Symphony for giving us prizes for the giveaway. Thank you very much. And some benefits of becoming an OLLI member, if you are not already, is you get lower class fees and first priority registration. You get a Cal Poly Humboldt emailed account, which includes a full professional version of Zoom if you activate it. You get a discount on the Jack Pass, eligibility for course scholarships, student discounts at local businesses around the community. You can participate in OLLI special interest groups, and you get an included library ID card that gives you library access. In addition to all that, you can also have gym and recreation center access with a small fee. And then every week on Friday, Tracy Barnes Priestley hosts a Let's Connect event. They are free every Friday from 10 to 11 a.m. They begin during COVID as a way to become together and, just stick together as a community. But since that has kind of died down a bit, it has become very, very popular. And they have a different topic that they just talk about in small groups for an hour, and there's a different topic every week. I screwed up. I did not have this week's topic available in front of me, but it is on our newsletter that just went out this morning. And like I said before, all of our classes or our brown bags are recorded. And if you missed a presentation, you can check out our video archive. It is on our OLLI website, or you can go to our OLLI YouTube channel, subscribe to our channel, and you can get notified every time we upload a brown bag video. And if you want to contact OLLI, you give us a call at 707-826-5880 or email at us at olli@humboldt.edu. Thank you everybody for coming, and I'm going to turn it over to Jane to introduce this week's speaker. Jane, let me give it to you.
I am, of course, delighted to welcome you all. And this week, like last week, I still am a little hoarse. I haven't figured out where I lost my voice. It's partially here, but not all of it. So I apologize. I'm delighted to welcome Jan Dooley to talk about some of the most important lifestyle choices you can make to decrease your chances of poor health as you age. Topics include a variety of exercises, eating habits, and thought patterns. The changes are not always easy, but well worth the effort. The goal is to help you make practical changes to increase the quality and length of your life. Jan is a retired chiropractor who's lived 35 plus years here with a few times off. Jan, it's all yours.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, have my slides come up?
No.
Not yet, no. All right, you're sharing now. We just don't see the slideshow yet. There we go.
Okay, great. Okay, so welcome. Thank you for attending this brown bag lunch through OLLI, and thank OLLI for inviting me. My name is Dr. Jan Dooley. I'm a chiropractor with a couple of additional degrees or certificates in chiropractic. The title of my talk is Living Long and Well, What's Your Happy? Happy stands for Health Action Plan, Practical for You. My goal today is to give you some ideas on how to live longer and well with real practical ways of doing it. A little bit about myself. I worked as a chiropractor for 35 years, most of them in Arcata at my office, Humboldt Chiropractic. I emphasize holistic health principles and treated mostly chronic pain and chronic health issues. Most people don't know what a chiropractor has for training. So just briefly, we do graduate from a 4-year postgraduate chiropractic college approved by the US Department of Education. We have to pass several national tests to evaluate our knowledge of human anatomy, physiology, and diseases. And then we earn our licenses at each state according to their criteria, but they give us additional tests to make sure we can examine, diagnose, treat patients, take and read x-rays. In addition to my general chiropractic degree, I also have 2 advanced trainings. One is called a CCSP, or Certified Chiropractic Sports Practitioner. This requires 1 additional year of training plus passing the national examination, focusing on athletic injuries and their treatments. I also have a very rare degree called a DABC, the Diplomat of American Chiropractic Board of Internists. We're also known as chiropractic internists. There are only about 50 of us in the world, basically. For this, I did 3 years of additional training and then also passed the national examination on human diseases and the practical examination on examination, diagnosis, and treatment. As internists, we covered everything, and we covered guts, we covered brains, we covered viruses. So it was very extensive training, basically, and did a lot of what people would think of what a medical doctor does as an internist, but from a holistic health or chiropractic point of view. The reason I want to give this talk is I find the longevity information is just overwhelming. It is conflicting. I don't know what's commercially motivated. I don't know what is research. A lot of it is impractical, it's negative based, and most people don't know where to start. So I have simplified the research information into 3 basic categories. Those categories are physical things you can do, chemical things you can do, and emotional areas to improve. This is what, to me, a happy looks like, the health action plan practical for you. To help improve the quality and length of my life, I can choose something in the physical realm, something in the chemical realm, something in the emotional realm. I hope by the end of this talk today that you can at least choose one thing to put in one of these categories so that you have something that you want to change to help you increase your odds of living long and well. The main points in each area is in the physical area. The basic concept is to simply move more. There are lots of different ways we can do that, and I will go into details later. The chemical basically involves nutrition, and the basic premise is eat more whole foods. The emotional area concentrates on making more helpful connections. So let's go into the physical, the move more part of the goal. there turns out to be 4 different ways to move. Most of us know about cardiovascular. We go out and get our walking or our running, get our heartbeat up and so on. But we also have to do strength, so we can get up the stairs and get up from our chairs and so on. Flexibility, so we can reach for things. And the 4th area, stability, is not nearly as well known, but it's basically the ability to hold a pose for a while, your balance. So the 4 ways to move more include cardiovascular, strength, flexibility, and stability. The chemical with eating more whole foods, I think most of us know what whole foods are here in this area. I'm going to talk a lot about what healthy proteins are, what complex carbohydrates are, how to get more fresh fruits and vegetables into your diet, how to increase your unsaturated fats and decrease your saturated fats. We're talking a little bit about vitamins and minerals. And an area I will barely discuss at all is avoiding unnecessary chemicals. The emotional area, or where you make more helpful connections, can get broken down into 4 areas. There's positive social engagement, there's quiet time, there's lifelong learning, and good sleep.
Jan, can I interrupt you a second? Oh, yes, thank you. That's what I was about to suggest. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So when we concentrate on moving well, anything you do to move more helps. I don't care what it is simply standing up from your chair more often. Anything that gets you moving increases your odds of living well and long. So the main decision you need to make is what works for you. What is it that you like to do? What type thing, what time of day works for you? Do you have a place you want to do at home? You like to go to a studio? You like to go to the pool? Do you like to do it by yourself? Do you like to do it in a group? You need the variety of activities, which we covered briefly with the cardiovascular, the aerobic, the strength, and the stability. You also need to do it correctly so you don't injure yourself. And I personally believe in bribing myself to do positive things for myself. So you figure out what type of reward you're going to give yourself for adding these additional steps in. And by the way, ice cream doesn't count. Okay, what type of movement do you like? I've listed several types here. Do you like to walk, run, bike, swim, golf, dance, play pickleball, row, yoga, lift weights, throw balls, like in basketball or baseball? Do you like boxing or other sports you like? I happen to be a canoeist. Love that sport. It's what I do a lot of, as much as I can. So you have to choose what type of thing is going to actually work for you. You have the skills to do, and you also enjoy it. And when, where, and with whom do you like to exercise? Do you need to have a buddy to help you get out on your walk? Probably need a buddy to play tennis or things like that. Do you like to be outdoors? Do you like to do it at home? Do you like to do it in gym, in a class? Again, solo, you can do it all on your own. And do you need to take a class or a trainer? And then again, what is your immediate reward for exercising? I've seen people use various tricks for this, whether they put money in a jar to buy themselves a treat, whether they get to pick their favorite movie that night, they give themselves a little bit of entertainment time. What is going to give you a feeling that like you're doing something that makes you happy? Hopefully the exercise itself is satisfying enough, but in the beginning, it's usually not. I think most of us need to actually bribe ourselves in a way to make sure we get to that activity that we want to do. Okay, once you choose what type of exercise you like to do or what type of movement you'd like to do, is it a complete exercise? Does it include all 4 types with the aerobic, the strength, the flexibility, and stability? Very few sports actually include all 4. The ones that are come closest to it are things like swimming, dancing, rowing, golf, and racket sports. You tend to run around a lot in those. You tend to get your heartbeat up to a reachable area. You tend to have strength as you're trying to hit the ball hard. Or swim hard or pull hard. You also tend to have flexibility because you're reaching to in these sports mostly. And most of them also have stability because you've got one foot planted on the ground when you swing something. So that is a stability exercising. If you're doing swimming or rowing, though, you're not standing up. And since we do spend so much of our time standing, I recommend you to do a little bit of stability, standing, and strength exercises. Most people I find kind of go into the walk, run, bike areas. Those are areas with great cardiovascular workout, well known for it. They don't always add strength though. So for strength, if you're walking, you can do things like add stairs, add hills. If you're running, biking, you can do sprints. You can also decide to do a different sport where you're doing your strength work separately. You might go to the gym on your off days from aerobics and lift weights there, or do your yoga class or whatever it is. If your sport doesn't have a lot of stretching, which most of these sports have no stretching in them really, do it during your cool down. It's really nice to stretch after you're warm. Your muscles are much more flexible and will stretch better. Some people do it on the warm up to kind of just get into the groove. The stretching is most effectively done though when you're warm. And of course, you can always do your stretching separately by going to whatever activity you want to do that on a different day or time of day. For stability, bike absolutely includes stability. You have to balance. Walking and running doesn't involve so much balancing unless you're running on uneven surfaces. So if you're out at the beach, for example, in the sand, you definitely be running on soft surfaces that need stability. So to places like the forest or trails where you're on uneven surfaces. Another great set of exercises that I see people do a lot are yoga, weights, boxing, throwing. These sports, you may need to add cardiovascular activity in some of them. Yoga, you don't always get your pulse rate up. You don't always get your pulse up with your lifting weights or boxing or throwing. And you can imagine other sports too and figure out where they fit in these criteria. With weights are especially notorious for needing to add flexibility, some stretching so you don't get muscle bound. Same with boxing and throwing. You may well have a sport that I have not listed. This would be a great time to ask in the chat box. Put a question in about what about your sport needs some help with getting all 4 types of areas. I would love to see what people are doing for their exercise program and how to help you improve it. Because if you're already exercising, you're already like 80% of the way there. You might want to improve it a little bit though to increase your odds even more. Okay, how much exercise do you need? Well, again, anything is better than nothing. So anything you do is great. I don't care if it's even just, I had one patient who was especially inspirational because when I knew her, she was pretty much spending all her time laying on the couch, eating potato chips and watching TV. Within a month, she managed to actually walk to her mailbox and then to the corner. This is the furthest she had walked in a very long time. So anything counts. It just helps to start moving. And how much you can do kind of depends on how much you're already doing. And you do what you can, and anything you do is going to help you live longer and better. If you'd like to work on specific goals, the recommendation for cardiovascular exercise these days are 150 minutes of moderate exercise or 75 minutes of vigorous exercise. You can do that every day. I don't think most people really like to. So many people will do cardiovascular one day, strength or flexibility on their alternate days. Strength, you do every other day. Now that means you do a body part. So I know some people when they weight lift, they like to work their upper body one day, their lower body the next day, and their core the third day. That also works out great. You can lift weights every day, but if you do the same weight routine every day, you don't give your muscles the time to recover and strengthen. You just tend to keep tearing them down. So on strength, it's recommended you at least have a rest day before you work the same part of the area again. Flexibility. Hourly is in there because of the studies that showed standing up when sitting makes a huge difference in life expectancy. I don't think anybody really understands why this works yet. I have my suspicions as a chiropractor, but there's no good research that I've seen recently that really explains this one. When this study first came out, it was stunning. I think it just kind of floored everybody that standing up, simply standing up, you only had to stand up like for 5 seconds to make a difference. But it seemed to really help with longevity. So very basic flexibility. You've been sitting for a while, get up. Here's an excuse to get up if you need to, set a timer, but stand up frequently. That also includes when you're driving. So if you're driving along, I think most of us are getting to the age where we like to get out of the car every hour to 2 hours, simply so we can finish up the day in decent shape. Okay, so besides from moving from sitting to standing, Flexibility is something that you can do daily. You can do anytime during the day. We talked about being warm is the best time to do it. And again, you should try to stretch every joint in your body at some point during the week. In general, flexibility, the more you do it, the more benefit you get from it, or the further you can go. There's kind of like no upper limit to it. Even the gymnasts spend a lot of their time flexing or stretching. Stability, holding your balance or holding a challenging pose is something that you can do daily. Again, anytime you do it is better than never. And there's a lot of ways to do stability that we'll go over a little bit later. Again, if you have questions as we're going along, please enter them into the chat box. There are lots of ways to help you move well. Besides bribing yourself to do it and giving you rewards, choosing things you like, giving yourself social time with friends to do it, and giving yourself motivation. I highly recommend if you're starting something new, you take a class, you use a trainer, you have a coach, use somebody, please help you learn how to move right. They will help you avoid injury, which is really important, of course, at our ages. And also help you learn good form, because you can't see how you're doing it. They can tell you, did you know your right arm's going up higher than your left, or you're bending forward, or you're off balance. They'll also help you gauge what good intensity for you, and help you use some variety, so you're not doing just the same thing every day. So again, if you're new, please use a trainer or a class or somebody to help guide you through the relatively steep learning curve. Now, how hard do you have to work to get benefit? Again, anything's better than nothing, so anything you do that you do well is great. On stability, if you're holding a pose like in yoga, this would be a tree pose, or I have a picture of a person doing a plank here. You hold it for a minute. If you can't do it for a minute, great. When you start getting shaky, let it go. Come back and try it again a little bit later so you can build up some strength and reach that minute or longer. And aerobic is an area where you do need to be in the right pulse rate. We can talk about pulse rates and consult your doctors and those all sorts of complicated formulas. But I think a very practical way is if you're out walking or running or biking or whatever, you can speak a sentence. Hey Joe, how's your golf game going, or whatever it is. You should be able to speak a sentence and respond to that sentence also. A vigorous amount of exercise, which is more like speaking a few words. It's good, but I can keep going, as opposed to I can't breathe. If I can't speak, then my heart rate is probably too high. I am probably overstraining my heart and actually doing a little damage. I'd like to remind you that if you're doing moderate aerobic exercise, the recommended standard right now for the best results is to do moderate exercise, 150 minutes a week. That means about a half hour, 5 days a week. You should be doing it at a pace where you can still speak a sentence to somebody. If you're doing vigorous, you'll need half as much. So if you're running hard, for example, and you can still speak a few words, you only have to do that for 75 minutes a week. So that's more like 15 minutes a day, or 3 25-minute sessions. So you get twice as much benefit from it, basically. It also, of course, wears you out that much harder. And I don't know about you, but I sure can't run anymore. So I am walking quickly these days. Again, if you have questions about aerobic, please ask them in the chat box. On strength is kind of done moderately or hard. A moderate with repetitions would be 8 to 12 repetitions. You see the little man holding the stretching tube. He's going to lift that arm up 8 to 12 times and be tired at that point. Maybe the last one's difficult to do. If it was doing hard, he would have to take a firmer, stronger band and do fewer repetitions with 5. The hard builds muscle. That's what you see all the weightlifting doers, the ones who get those big, gorgeous bulges in their muscles. They are doing hard workouts. It builds a lot of strength. Moderate exercises is when you get some muscle bulk, but you're not going to be like the Hulk. It also gives you strength to be able to move things around. If you need to carry the ice chest to the car or something like that, your groceries into the house, then the moderate is usually just great. You can do lots of things that are lightweight also, and that would tend to be any place from 15 to 25 repetitions just to be able to keep using your muscles well. On flexibility, if you hold a stretch, hold it. It takes about 15 seconds for a muscle to stretch. One of the things I love about stretching is I just get to that point where I feel the first tightness, and then I hold it. As I hold it, it lets go, right? So I take up the slack and go a little bit further into the stretch, and I hold that pose. And if it lets go, I go a little deeper into the pose. Okay, when it stops letting go, I'm done. Do not force stretching. You do not want to tear anything. And it's all about letting your connective tissue change. It's not really about stretching the muscles, but you have all this fascia that involves your whole body and links everything to everything. Your big toe's connected to your ear, literally. It is by your flexa, by your connective tissue. And my type of chiropractic work, it was amazing where sometimes I would adjust a big toe and hear the jaw pop. I don't know why that happened, but I assume it was through this connective tissue that did that. So again, with flexibility, you're not so much stretching your muscles as you are stretching the connective tissue that binds everything in our body. So hold it for enough time to let it give some slack. Doing it when you're warm is when you're going to get the best flexibility for it. As long as you're doing exercise, you do want to work your whole body. It's great if you've got strong legs, if you're going to be lifting. It's great if you've got good upper body strength because you're playing baseball or something like that. But to live long and well, you kind of need your whole body. You need your arms and your legs and your core all to be strong. So try to include every body part at some time during the week, especially in strength work and flexibility. Some people love doing the same routine every day or every week, and they just got it down and it's nailed in, and they're very happy to do that. Other people need a lot of variety to keep things interesting. So they like to go to a dance class where they do something different every week, or they might go to the gym and do a different class at various times. And they both work well. It's whatever works for you. The advantage for adding variety is you do tend to get more of a whole body workout. You also get some depth and resiliency because lots of your body is being trained in different ways. Okay, that completes the moving well section, or the physical part of things you can do to help yourself live well and longer. We're going to move to chemical, which basically means food. I'm talking about food. Rule number 1, eat good stuff. Rule number 2, no garbage in. That's about the only negative I'm going to have in this lecture, because I really try to stay with what you can do to help yourself. But you are made up of what you eat, what you absorb and you acquire. So good food helps to make good bodies, and junk food makes junk bodies. If you are eating mostly food without protein, you can't build muscles. If you're eating a lot of stuff that has toxins in it, you are going to have to get rid of those and spend a lot of work to do it. So eat good stuff. The good stuff is basically whole foods, and we're going to more detail on that in a minute. Food is definitely our main source of chemicals. We also get some in water, but also think about what you put on your body, what pills you take, what air you're breathing, and what liquids you're taking into your body. The cleaner you can make it, the more good chemicals that are in them, the better off you are going to be, so you don't have to remove the garbage. The fourth area I'm going to talk about with chemical area is microflora. The microflora is a relatively new thought in healthcare. It's fascinating, it's complicated, and I don't think we are close to understanding it, but it turns out that microflora will take what we have in our body and change it, modify it, and add actually chemicals to our body. Okay, let's talk about priorities when you're talking about food. Number 1, add whole foods. Whole foods are things like whole grains, fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, and beans. The more of the original food it contains, the better off it is. Of course, you don't want the inedible spots, but basically it should look like it is the food it says it is. Reduce junk food, that's the no garbage in part, especially processed foods and foods that are high in fatty, sugary substances. Fortunately, they taste really good, and the food industry is very, very good at making us want that fatty, sugary, salty food. And it takes discipline basically to avoid it. I also find is that as you eat more whole foods, your cravings go away for the fatty, sugary food. It really doesn't taste good after a while. So the first bite might taste good because it's so flavorful, but after that, it just makes you feel bad. I hear a lot of discussion about what's the best whatever when eating food. There is no one best food. We need a variety of high quality foods. The biggest challenge I find in food is how to create healthy meals. It's hard to put together meals that are healthy. It's hard to shop and buying food that does it. So I recommend starting by, when you're designing a meal, what do I want to eat tonight? Let's say I want to eat Italian. Great. There's a flavor profile. The reason I like to start with a flavor profile is because it gives me a taste in mind, especially a spicing and so on. So if I'm going to do Italian, I can imagine all the tomato sauce, all those wonderful aromatic Mediterranean herbs that I put into it. And then I can choose the foods that are going to help me get that flavor profile and make the food more enjoyable. A lot of these foods tend to be mixed foods. So they're going to be not a piece of meat, and then a grain on the side or a starch, and then some vegetables separated. You definitely can get flavor that way. But if you think about Italian, you're not thinking about meat, tomatoes, and salad. You're kind of thinking about all those herbs and vegetables you put into the sauce all together. And these tend to create healthier foods. So you can do it by having your meat and your starch and your vegetables. But if you want to have some fun, explore different stir fries and curries and different types of salads and soups and stews, casseroles. They emphasize spices. You can throw in a lot of vegetables, the whole grains. They encourage low saturated fat proteins, like skinless chicken goes into there because you're adding the flavor through all the spices. Same with chicken breasts. Beans, lentils, tofu, fish, all can be treated this way and just have a flavor-packed meal that's pretty easy to cook. And if cost is a concern for you, they also tend to be relatively cheap ways to prepare healthy food. Okay, so to review, your priorities on the food front is to eat whole foods, get rid of the junk food, use a variety of high foods, and think about healthy meals. What can I do to make this meal healthier? And you can get help with that by thinking about the flavor as well as the items. Here is a picture of what a healthy plate of food looks like. And thank you to Harvard Medical School for putting this out. In the bottom right, we have that orange, which is the healthy protein. The top right is the whole grains. And notice that half the plate is vegetables and fruits. I rarely see dishes coming out of restaurants that look like this, for example. Some of them are doing a good job on it, but even at home, I see people kind of have a big hunk of meat. They have a big hunk of potatoes or some type of not whole grain, and then they have a few vegetables on the side, which are kind of put in as an afterthought. So start thinking in terms of half of what I'm going to eat should be vegetables and fruits. You'd also throw whole grains into there, so you're doing beans and things like that, along with oats and quinoa and wheat and so on. But most of your food should be made up of your healthy starches, your vegetables, and your fruits. And then meat kind of think of as the bonus. It's kind of like a dessert in a way. It's got that yummy meat or protein satisfaction we get from eating protein. It has the umami flavor in it often. And there's lots of ways to use healthy proteins, but kind of think of it as an add-on. Your main dish is going to occupy mostly your vegetables and grains. What am I starting with? And then what protein flavor am I adding to it? This picture also talks a little bit about what the healthy drinks are. Basically, water, coffee, and tea without a lot of cream or sugar in it are about the only healthy drinks we have. Again, 50% fruits and vegetables, 25% of healthy protein, and 25% of whole grain is what makes for an excellent meal that will help you live long and better. I think most people know what whole foods are and processed foods are, but I wanted to talk about examples that I hear people talk about. We can debate forever which is the best form of a food to eat. I don't really care about the best. I just want to do something that's good, something that's maybe better than the poor ones I'm doing now. So let's talk about oats to start with. Oats come in various forms. They come in steel cut. They come in old-fashioned or rolled oats. There's the quick oats, and then there are instant oats. Steel cut oats are the least processed. They basically take out the inedible husk and do a little squishing up. They cut them basically, so then you can actually access them. They take a long time to cook, though. They take at least 20 minutes to cook through or overnight. And even after you do all of that, they tend to be tough. They're much chewier to eat. And some people love that. And some people find they just are not going to enjoy it. So steel cut oats are the least processed, but they may not be the ones that you want to eat because of your own personal preferences. Old-fashioned oats or rolled oats are a little bit more processed. They steam them a little bit and they roll them a little bit. And the cooking time gets down to 5 minutes. And once they're cooked for 5 minutes, they're good and ready to eat. Quick oats are even more processed. They cook very fast. And because of all that processing, they are starting to act like sugar in your body. Instant oats are even worse because they are pre-cooked. They have a lot of stuff added to them. And this is like talking about those individual packages you get at your hotel that come in boxes. They have a lot of garbage added to them, basically food that you don't want to be putting in your body. And then they quickly act like sugar in your body. Later on in this presentation, I will talk a little bit about the difference between starches and sugars and why you want to stay with starches instead of eating a lot of sugar. We can talk about wheat the whole way and rice and so on, but there's decisions to be made about how you want some processing because you don't want to eat the inedible husk, but how much processing do you need done ahead of time for you to be able to eat it? And is that leaving you in a good spot in terms of getting what you need from the food and avoiding the garbage? Peas, beans are another area that usually have to be processed to some degree. Now, pea pods are actually something you do eat whole, like in stir fry and so on. They're immature peas, but that's where you do actually eat the whole pea. Most of the time, we shell the peas and eat the peas. And if you've never had split pea soup fresh, try it sometime. It's really good. But the dried peas also taste really good. So you can get peas that have been processed, but they pretty much just been shelled and dried and have most other good things still left in them. They also last a long time, so you can sit in your counter for as long as you want, basically. And they taste great, but usually you have to put in a soup or stew or something like a water environment to get them to rehydrate well. And they take a long time. They take 20 minutes or so to cook up that way. Canned peas are easy. They're cheap. They're readily available, but they taste poor. I'm sorry, but they just don't taste like peas anymore. And of course, being in that water bath, they also lose a lot of their nutritional value. And salt usually tends to get added to them too, which may be or may not be an issue for you if you're salt sensitive. So peas and beans are processed, dried is great, fresh is great, but it's hard to get fresh ones to eat. So dried ones to me are just fine for eating peas and beans. We're talking about fruits and vegetables. You know, you can't eat a whole orange. You don't want that peel, so it takes a little work to peel it. You know, same with a lot of other fruits and vegetables. You may have to take out the outer layers, the husk of the corn and so on. So a peeled orange is great to eat. You know, corn on the cob is great to eat. But once you start juicing them, you've lost an awful lot of the nutrients, and they pretty much just turn into sugar water that is flavored orange. They may have a tiny bit of pulp left in them, but nothing like if you were eating it whole. And of course, if you get orange flavored candy, it is all sugar. So don't pretend that it's anything else. Okay, moving on. We're going to talk about healthy proteins. Healthy proteins basically contain unsaturated fat or low amounts of saturated fat. The protein is great, but the fat that comes with it tends to be the issue. People also in America tend to love to eat a lot of protein. That's not necessarily a good idea. It does put stresses on our body to get rid of excess protein, especially if you're having kidney problems. So you need to eat enough protein, because you don't eat enough, you can't build up those muscles to be strong and stable. But you don't want to eat too much. And it does turn out that protein is best eaten 3 times a day. Instead of having it all at one meal, our body is not as efficient at digesting it that way. So it's best to divide it up into 3 portions. How much is a portion? Well, of course, it depends on how much muscle you have, how active you are. But roughly, if we go off weight, I have in the portion section, I have 1 to 2 cup beans. 1 cup of beans will be for somebody who is kind of normal body build and weighs 100 pounds. The 2 cup of beans would be somebody who is about 200 pounds. So you can figure out where on that scale you work. So if you need to do 1.5 cups of beans or how much you should be eating. So it'd be 1 to 2 cups of beans would be a portion. With nuts, it's half as much, 1/2 cup to 1 cup. With meat, it's 2 to 4 ounces. So think about 4 ounces of meat is a 1/4 pounder, for example, and 2 is even less than that. A few slices of meat instead of a patty of meat. If you're doing something like non-fat Greek yogurt, it's 6 to 12 ounces. The little yolk plates tend to be 6 ounces. Some of the other ones come in at 8 ounces. But it gives you an idea of how much protein you should be eating at each meal. And again, you should be eating one of these with each one. So either have your beans or nuts, and maybe another meal have your meat, and another meal have yogurt, or do beans all day long, or whatever your personal preference is. Get a protein you like and eat it about 3 times a day in the right portions. The healthiest proteins do come mostly from plants. That's because of the saturated fat. So if you're thinking about plant proteins, these would be things like nuts and beans, legumes, seeds, and I would throw in also sustainably harvested fish. There's a lot of fish out there that is not sustainably harnessed, and it's not so much a problem for your health, but it's a problem for the planet and our ability for our children to eat it. Specific healthy proteins would be things like almonds and kidney beans, chickpeas, sunflower seeds, peanuts, salmon. The reason animal fats are a problem is they tend to contain saturated fat. The fattier the animal is, the more amount of saturated fat it has, which of course is hard in our cardiovascular system and helps us gain weight quickly, basically. They are very calorie dense foods. If you do want to eat animal proteins, the best ones are fish because they do not have saturated fat in them. Also the low fat or fat-free dairy products. Skinless chicken, breasts are going to be lower fat than thighs. They're both good then. And there are also very lean meat cuts that are allowed in a healthy protein criteria. The lean cuts of meat tend to be tougher, but you can basically look at a piece of meat and see how much fat in it. I happened to go to Safeway the other day and noticed that they had a bunch of stuff on sale, and an awful lot of it were these lean cuts, things like round steak, Aya round cuts, and so on, tend to be lean. Some of the pork chops are pretty lean these days too. So you're welcome to eat meat if that's your preference. I just realized that you have to be pickier about how much and what meat you eat. Deli meats, bacon, hot dogs, canned meats are all processed. The processing adds unhealthy component to them because of the way they treat the meat. It creates compounds that just aren't good for us. So lunch meats are really popular for sandwiches, but they are not your best choice. You're better off actually getting your chicken breast or whatever and cutting that up and making your sandwich or whatever your portion is going to be from that. Okay, let's move on to carbohydrates. So we covered the proteins about what's healthy and how much you need to eat. On carbohydrates, the two main issues are, is it a starch or is it a sugar? Starches are considered complex carbohydrates. They have a lower glycemic index, which I'll explain in a minute. They're considered generally healthy food with more fiber and nutrients. Examples would be things like whole wheat, rolled oats, rice, cornmeal, beans, peas, lentils. Sugars are simple carbohydrates. They have a higher glycemics. They're generally considered unhealthy food and have less fiber and nutrients. Juice, sugar, syrup, honey are examples of simple carbohydrates. Now, to talk about glycemic index, it basically measures how fast a carbohydrate reaches our stream. Low glycemic index are generally healthier, especially if you're sensitive to sugar. So if you're a diabetic, for example, or tend towards sugar surges, then you want to look at glycemic index carefully and choose foods that are lower on the glycemic index scale. I think of glycemic index as a sugar spike. When I eat a food, how much of a burst of sugar do I get, basically? And that correlates pretty well with what the glycemic index measures. To get a healthier or less of a sugar spike, the more whole and complex the carbohydrate is, the better off you're going to be. So let's take something like pasta. Your standard pasta is okay. It's kind of a moderate glycemic index. But if you have a whole wheat pasta, all of a sudden it goes up to a low glycemic index. If you have a chickpea or soy pastas, which are getting to taste pretty good these days, and they prepare just like the other pastas, they have protein in them, which actually slows down the glycemic index significantly. We can do the same thing with sugar. The sugar, is extremely high sugar spike quickly. Juice pretty much does the same thing. But if you have fresh or frozen fruit, because we have to chew it up, it turns out plant cells have little wax walls around them. So we actually have to chew the cells and break it open to get to that juicy, sugary substance that we like. So the fresh or the frozen fruit is going to have a much lower glycemic index than sugar or a juice. Between fresh and frozen, the frozen is a little bit lower glycemic index because of the way that sugar has been processed when it got frozen, but they're both considered lower glycemic index foods. Another way to lower a glycemic index is to combine something that is more sugary with something that slows it down, like a healthy protein or fat. So for example, oatmeal. Now, instant oatmeal is going to have a really quick sugar spike, but even the old-fashioned oats are going to have something of a moderate glycemic spike. But if you add something like yogurt, nuts, seeds, fresh fruit, it's going to decrease it. So this is a case where mixing your foods together actually helps to decrease the glycemic index simply because of the way our digestive system works. It has to get through the hard to digest stuff to get to the sugar. So for example, if you just drink a glass of juice, your body goes, oh good, instant sugar, great, I can access that immediately. But if you do something like put jelly and mix it into your peanut butter, it has to digest to the peanut butter, which can take 4 or 5 hours to digest to that to get to the jelly. So it will slow down basically how fast that sugar spike hits you. Bread, especially the white breads, tend to have a very high glycemic index and gives you that sugar spike. But also, if you're putting something on it, like your lean meat, or you're putting peanut butter on it, if you mix it in with vegetables, and it turns out pickles, vinegar also helps to slow down digestion. So putting more stuff on that sandwich rather than just meat and mayonnaise or butter and bread is going to really help that food last in your body longer and come in on a more reasonable rate so you avoid that sugar spike. Rice is another one that the white rice is a moderate glycemic index. It's not low. Brown rice would be considered low, but that's partly because the husk is on there, so it's hard for us to get to the starch. But again, if you mix that rice in with veggies or beans, eggs, lean meat, soy sauce, it turns out that fermented foods like soy sauce can also help slow down digestion. There's a lot of yummy sauces out there that the Asians use to make their rice better, to make their rice taste better. And so something like a stir fry where everything is mixed together, or a curry, that's going to, again, slow down your glycemic index, give you a chance to throw in a lot of healthy, yummy foods, a lot of flavor in that food without much fat. And so it's great to kind of mix things together to help slow down that glycemic index. Cooking methods also affect how fast food hits us. So for example, if you are cooking potatoes, if you bake them, that's going to hit you faster than boiled. But if you take boiled potatoes and let them sit for a day, the starch reforms and they get slower. So on potatoes, things like baked instant are going to be your worst. Stale potatoes are going to be your best on you for the glycemic index. It turns out for noodles and most starches, the longer you cook them, the higher the glycemic index gets. So you want to eat your pasta noodles al dente, just still a little bit firm. In general, for cooking methods, the highest glycemic indexes are achieved by boiling a food, putting in a lot of water, and things like microwaving, where it's a dry environment, is going to be lower. Sauteing is also a good dry source to do it. Steaming is someplace in between. So to summarize on healthy carbohydrates tend to be in minimally processed foods. That would be examples like whole wheat, oats rolled, Rice, cornmeal, quinoa are all healthy carbohydrates. Beans and legumes are also going to be healthy carbohydrates. They tend to have a lot of starch in them. They tend to be a very good source of protein in addition also. When you're eating your healthy carbohydrates, like your fruits, your starchy vegetables, do a rainbow. It turns out that all those colors in fruits and vegetables have different properties for our body. They do different things chemically for us. So eating a rainbow of vegetables and fruits is an excellent way to go. Also adds nice color to your food and variety. You can also take carbohydrates and make them healthier by cooking them in ways or mixing them with other foods that decrease the glycemic index. So doing something like rice or curries and so on are a nice way to take a carbohydrate and make it healthier. Okay, let's talk about microflora. Again, one of the most interesting subjects in healthcare right now for me, because we don't know about it and we just keep discovering more and more about what our microflora does for us. Our microflora are basically non-human organisms that live in our body. They are absolutely vital to our well-being. They live in us and on us. Now, they're best known for being in our small intestines, but they're on your skin. They're pretty much every place in our body. If you look at a human body and look at the DNA and see what types of DNA aren't in there, it turns out human DNA is something like 1 or 2% of the total DNA in our body. There are many, many, many more types of organisms in us than human. It's kind of interesting, make you think, what is a human body? I think we need to start thinking about it. It is a community that we have evolved to host to help us stay healthy and survive. Healthy microflora does make healthy bodies. They're important for making chemicals, helping the immune system, modulating inflammation, basically decreasing inflammation, and they generally increase wellness. Some of the first studies pointed out that babies that were born very cesarean section get different microflora than the babies that are born vaginally. It starts out from our first exposure through our moms. This is my personal opinion. I don't think there is research that is supporting this, but I strongly suspect that healthy food choices not only support your human cells, but they also support your healthy flora. I think most people have heard about intestinal yeast problems, and that's usually from eating foods that are too high on the glycemic index, too sugary. And by switching your diet, you get to healthier flora, and it helps you in all sorts of ways, not just specific diseases. Your body simply works better. So when you eat, think about eating for your microflora in addition to yourself. Healthy meals are something a lot of people have trouble with. So I've listed several types of healthy meals here to just give you ideas of what a good meal is. Breakfast, oatmeal. I use old-fashioned oats and I add berries, nuts, and low-fat, non-fat Greek yogurt. Whole toast with peanut butter and bananas, for example, would be a great breakfast. A veggie omelet with some fruit and whole wheat bread with it would be great. Lunch, start with whole wheat bread. If you're not eating a whole wheat or multi-grain bread, at least you're not getting a very good quality on your bread. Put a lot of stuff on it. Add it on the tomatoes, the sprouts, the onions, the dill peppers, the whatever you want. You know, salmon and dill sauce on whole wheat bread, lettuce, lemon, great. Make sure you also add some fruits or vegetables in there also, so you can get that part of it going on. Again, it should be about half fruits and vegetables and a quarter grains and quarter protein. You can do kind of individual foods by having a little box of nuts, a little bowl of grapes, some olives in there, add some whole grain crackers, add some beans, and that's another way to do it. It's kind of like more of a bento type of style. You can also think about mixing it all together in a salad. You know, Southwest black bean salad with a lot of black beans and salsas in it and lots of vegetables in the salad makes for a great lunch. Dinner, you can think about things like turkey stir-fried vegetables with baked tofu or chicken on rice. Cooking with lentils or beans are a great way to do it. There's lots of great flavor profiles. You either use Asian, Moroccan, Italian. That's when we're really thinking about your flavor profile and then adding your beans or lentils into it. Ramen bowls are a great way to do it. Whole wheat noodles are going to be your best choice there. And adding, you know, your meat and your veggies basically into it. Snacks. It's a lot of the same things you be eating your meals, but if you need something between meals, whole grain crackers, fruit, yogurt, sunflower seeds, hummus. I often dip carrots in my hummus to make it, add a veggie to that also. So there are lots of good ways to get healthy meals. And anything you do, if there's something here that inspired you, I hope you can think about a meal that you might want to make this week to help you live long and well. Beverages, pretty much the only other healthy ones are coffee, water, and tea, low-fat, non-fat milk. There is coconut water, not coconut milk. It's got to be the actual water from the coconut. And sugar-free drinks can be considered healthy. I do worry about what other chemicals often come in on them, but definitely sugar-free is better than the full-powered sugar drinks. Eating out is really difficult to do well. So you have to search for places that serve whole foods, vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, lean meat. Be choosy with what protein and sauces you get. Lots of add-ons are not to your body's advantage. Your taste buds might love them. Your body might be fighting them for a while. Soups and salads are notoriously to be good, but some of the worst foods I've ever seen have also been soup and salads, depending on what they actually put in them, how much fat and sugary items they add. Anything that is fried or has added fat, sugar, coatings is unlikely to be healthy for you. So if you do something that's grilled or sauteed, that's usually a better choice. I actually went through some of the menus in town here and started looking for examples of healthy restaurant meals and found a lot. So I've listed a lot of them here, turkey sandwich, veggie burger, banh mi, Mediterranean salads, waffle burgers, sushi, rice and bean burrito, pho ga, summer rolls, Korean rice bowl, Buddha bowl, mugu gat pan, chicken broccoli are relatively healthy Chinese foods. Curry is usually great. Tempeh tacos, bean tostada, a Thai whole wheat bagel, a bowl of good food, an omnivore salad, a baked tofu Brazilian fusion bowl, chicken chili, a buffalo chicken salad with guachianches are all great meals. The meals are there. You have to go look for them. And again, choose a place that's going to have a healthy food. That doesn't mean you can't go out and splurge once in a while, but in general, you should be trying to eat healthy all the time. Now, on to our third area of improvements that you want to think about for living long and well. Your emotional well-being turns out to be critical to your ability to live long and well. There are 4 parts in emotional well-being to think about. There's positive social engagement, quiet time, lifelong learning, and sleep. Positive social engagement means building a network of people who support and appreciate you. The quality of the support matters much more than the frequency or the closeness of those people. You need to nurture these relationships by having meaningful interaction with them. That doesn't mean you need to talk to them every day. It doesn't mean that you may just get together with them once a year for a girls' weekend or whatever and have a great time and really talk about the stuff that matters and makes you feel appreciated. So again, it's not so much frequency, it's about the quality, and keep them going. There are some difficult people in most people's lives. So you need to set boundaries on those people so they don't just suck you into negative situations. So setting boundaries is what you need to do. If that's an issue for you, that's where counselors really excel at helping you set boundaries. Matter of fact, counseling helps you with all of these emotional areas. Not quite my area of expertise, but definitely the psychologists and counselors are great people to consult for this. While you're working with people too, feel compassion for them. Feel for them, appreciate what's going on in their lives. Grousing doesn't really help with the positive social engagement. You need to say, I'm so sorry Sue is having a hard time. Quiet time. It is getting harder and harder to get quiet time these days. To me, quiet time means the ability to think your own thoughts for at least 20 minutes continuously. During that quiet time, you get to reflect upon your life and find out what you want to nurture and what you want to prune. There are a lot of techniques to help you use that quiet time to your advantage, whether it's teachings, meditation, practicing gratitude, prayer, repetitive motion, doing as you're listening to music. It might be the art that you get into that spiritual quiet space. Forest bathing, walking a labyrinth, focal points, lots of various ways to help you encourage to use that quiet time. During that quiet time, you dismiss outside input, things like media, audible books, podcasts, directions. Daily is best, especially if you combine it with our next subject, which is going to be sleep hygiene. We have a time when we naturally slow down in the day. People have different times, maybe first thing in the morning, it may be after lunch, it might be before bed, but most of us have a time where our mind kind of quiets down. And it's a good time to get your quiet time and let yourself reflect upon your life. Sleep. Sleep is one of the most important activities because it is when our body does its healing. Sleep hygiene is basically a set of habits that encourage restorative sleep, which means you wake up rested. Part of sleep hygiene is having a place that is quiet, comfortable, dark, and safe to sleep. Turns out a regular bedtime really does help. Some people can go to sleep anytime, any place, but most of us, especially as we get older, have more and more time falling asleep and staying asleep. The studies are pretty strong that having a regular bedtime, if you're at 10 o'clock, if you go to sleep between 9:40 and 10:20, your odds of getting to sleep increase quite a bit, especially if you precede it by having something quiet. You can't go from an exciting, dramatic movie to sleep. You need to have transition time. It's a good time to practice quiet time or just do something that lets your mind slow down, calm down, and get all those hormones that got stirred up by the media to slow down. When you're falling asleep, you need to dismiss intruding thoughts. This is a difficult task to do, and there are lots of techniques for doing it. Some people put them in drawers away for the day. Some people just bless them and let them get their palms back to them. What you can't do is go down the rabbit hole and follow that thing that is upsetting you. Unlikely to help you fall asleep. So you have to learn to just set it aside until tomorrow when you want to deal with it so you can go to sleep. If you don't fall asleep within about 30 minutes, it turns out that instead of laying there and just hoping you go to sleep, if you actually get up and start the process all over again, you're more likely to go to sleep. So get up, read your book, listen to music, whatever it is that gives you that calming time, and then go back to bed again. There's some suggestion that it takes about 2 hours for this to work, but basically, if you don't fall asleep well the first time, get up, start it over again, and try again. That will help you get to sleep so your body can recover and you can live longer and better. Lifelong learning. You're here at this class, so I already know you know about lifelong learning. It's basically brain exercise. You seek new activities, places, people's tools. Use multiple senses. You see things, you hear things, you taste new smells, you smell new things, you touch things that you haven't felt before. And also proprioception, using your body in different ways, turns out to also be a learning tool that helps to invigorate us. Finding a way to do lifelong learning, of course, is the challenge. Again, you're here, so you already know about OLLI classes. But you can also join a group, converse with people, seek out new books, videos, websites, music, travel to a new place, visit a museum or cultural center, play a new game. I tell you, my kids are playing games all the time, and playing their games sure challenges my brain to learn in new ways. So lifelong learning is one of those 4 parts to help you keep your brain in shape. Best strategy. So here's the summary. Anything is better than nothing. Anything you do will help, and they build up quickly, basically. Probably the single most important thing is to add movement. In my experience with people I work with, walking was the most common thing I saw people could add. Now, some people may have other sports, they don't like walking, but just adding any movement, whether it's just pacing around the house so you move rather than sitting all day long, that gives you a good jump on getting healthier. I think a goal is to, each time you make up your shopping list, try to come up with one thing to do that's healthier. Instead of buying this, I can do this, and that would make my meals healthier. Add social activity. Where else can I find a group of people that I want to interact with? So now I would like you to think and take a little time to develop your own happy. What have we talked about today that's practical for you today? Do. There's something in the physical side with the strength or the cardiovascular stability or the flexibility that you want to add to your life. There's something about the food, a food that you think would help you enjoy and help you live longer and have a healthier diet. Is there emotional work that you need to do with interacting with people now, with having quiet time, with having a good night's sleep, with setting boundaries? So here's what I would put on my happy plan, for example. In the physical, I want to walk 20 minutes around that neighborhood most mornings. I like to do it outside. Chemical, making rolled oatmeal breakfast with berries and yogurt is great. Emotional, I need to work on having quiet time before going to bed at a regular time. So I hope you have taken a chance to jot down some of the best ideas that you found that you think would be relatively easy for you to integrate. This is being recorded, so you can always come back to it anytime you want to get more ideas. May you live long and well. You deserve it. So thank you. I did have a lot of pictures in my slides, and so I have to say that flat icon was the best place to find them. They're new, one of the kind of AI type ones that are being used. And so I thank Flat Icon for letting me use their images on my slides. Let's answer questions now. So if you haven't entered them in the chat box already, please go ahead and do so. I will stop sharing my screen so that we can get to questions. Okay, so Jane or Dane, where are we?
We're right here. Okay, where do whole potatoes come in is one question.
Okay, so whole potatoes, you can eat them peeled. Some people do that way mashed. They are going to have more fiber in them, so they'd be wholer than a peeled potato.
How does intermittent fasting fit in meal planning?
It's a practice that many people like. A lot of the regular research does not talk about intermittent fasting, but I find intermittent fasting tends to work really well for people who tend to be sugar sensitive, and they need to give their body a break from that sugar so it can clean it out. So if intermittent fasting works for you, it is a great tool. You still have to get all the components of your diet into those times when you are eating, though. So the portion sizes and amounts still value, but the intermittent fasting basically gives your body to clean out and decrease the stress of eating.
Let's see, there were a couple of others. Hold on a minute. Are you willing to make your PowerPoint slides available if requested?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let's see. There was something else in here. Oh, can you talk about interval training?
So interval training is one of the ways to combine aerobic and strength, basically. So my understanding of interval training is you kind of go at a slower rate and you sprint for part of it and do a slower rate. So it's a great way to mix aerobic and anaerobic or strength training. And if you enjoy it, do it. It's good stuff.
And are you still practicing as a chiropractor?
Well, unfortunately, I quit my practice in Humboldt at Humboldt Chiropractic in 2019 because I got married and moved to Colorado. I had the excellent timing of managing to open up my new practice on the very day that the COVID restrictions hit. So I was kind of forced into retirement. Chiropractors, it was illegal to practice basically for 3 months. So it took the heart out of a lot of us, basically. So I am retired.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Anybody?
So I see one about breathing.
Oh,
so
yeah.
breathing is one of those things that people can get into quite a bit. And yoga especially does a good job of working with breathing, that as you're exerting, if you breathe out, and when you're recovering, you breathe in, it kind of naturally goes with what your body is doing. It also kind of helps you from running out of breath, so that breathing, even like running and during the more aerobic sports, is important.
Okay. Any other questions?
Tai Chi fits it right in there with Tai Chi is a sport where we tend to do a lot of stability poses, moving slowly. Not going to get much aerobic exercise from it. You get some flexibility, but I haven't done enough Tai Chi to know if you're really reaching your range of motions or not to get that stretching. Definitely strong in the stability and some strength because you're holding poses for a while.
And Ed says, I'm new to Humboldt, how to meet people. Attend in-person classes at OLLI. About 2/3 of the classes are in person, and you can meet a lot of people that way. You can certainly find out who's interested in and see names and maybe put them to faces if they show up for the brown bag lunches, because there's one every week. And our one next week, for example, on February 10th, is setting up your e-commerce site using Shopify. And that's something we haven't addressed before. I thought it'd be interesting for those of you who find a need to set up a new business, for example, or have a lot of stuff you want to get rid of. That may be one way to do it. There are many, many opportunities. We have so many nonprofits here in the community that you can take part in, volunteer for, and that's a great way to meet people, is to participate. So whether it's OLLI, which is obviously wonderful, you can also take classes. They used to allow you to enroll in university classes in 6 hours I have a phone call. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to pick it up and put it down there. They'll get the message maybe. Anyway, it used to be, and I don't know whether it's still ongoing, that you could take 6 hours of classes a semester at no charge simply and not get credit for it. I don't know whether that program still exists. Sorry, try that again.
I see another question in the box about probiotics.
Yeah.
And so probiotics basically are some of the microorganisms that you're adding to your body, or it's fuel for those microorganisms. So it's a great way to help your microflora.
Anybody else? Well, this was wonderful. Thank you. You were very thorough. You covered a lot of topics, and we really appreciate it. We're happy you're back in the community. And I know she walks a lot. We walk on the beach, often on Sundays at 10 o'clock with a batch of other people who do Pilates. There are Pilates classes, Tai Chi classes. There's all kinds of stuff available. And it's totally up to you what you want to engage in. But it really, a lot of people come up to the community forest. It's free. It's a beautiful walk. And that's a lovely way to get exercise. So you can do down at the marsh, you can do up in the forest, you can go on the beach, you can go fishing, you can join people and do drawing and painting. There are all kinds of things to do to get engaged with other people. So this is a wonderful community with wonderful opportunities to meet people. And obviously we have our churches. So we invite you to participate. Pardon me?
Don't forget about clubs also.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of clubs that you can join, that people who have your own interest. And Jane, I would like to volunteer. If there's enough demand, I can turn this course into a 4-week session basically, and go into more details and get more practical with individual people.
Yeah, perhaps we can do that in the summer. That's the next session, because we have either the summer or the fall. Most of the time we don't have enough. The session in the summer may not be long enough to have 4 classes. So you could do that in the fall and have 1 a week or 2 a week, however you want to do it. But we'd love to have you propose a course. So
and so if people are interested, let Jane know so we can see if it's worth going forward with.
Yeah. Well, thank you ever so much. I know everybody appreciates, pretty much everybody stuck around for the whole thing. So that's a good sign. Have a wonderful week. I'm sure this rain will stop sometime soon. Actually, tomorrow it's not supposed to rain the whole day. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure the rest of you are. We need the rain. We had just FYI, we had over 14 inches of 15 inches of rain in November, 14 inches of rain in December, only 6 in January, and at least another 2.5 or 3 in this last few days. So we've had a lot of rain this year. It's fun to do stuff like that, by the way. I just have a rain gauge outside and I check it. I have gathered a lot of rain, And I just think about when we're in Colorado, each inch of rain here is equivalent to a foot of snow there. So it's a huge difference in climate. Okay, guys, Dane.
Oh, and one more question. How can people contact you, Jan?
That's a tough question.
You can give email.
Email would be great. Yeah, so my email is Jan Dooley, JAN, D as in Delta, OOLEY, at hotmail.com. So again, Jan Dooley, JANDOOLEY, at hotmail.com.
All right, and to just put that in the chat for people to copy if they want it. And yeah, and if anybody, like I said before at the very beginning, this class is recorded, this presentation is recorded. Usually within 24 to 48 hours, we upload this video to our YouTube channel and our video archive. So yeah, Jan, thank you so much for coming in.
And thank all of you. We had as many as 43 at one point, and then you had a very stable 41. So that was pretty good. All right. Have a great day. Try to stay dry. Good luck. My dog doesn't like the rain.